I'm really excited because in this video, we're going to start writing our first Solidity contract. In order to write this first contract, we're going to use an online code editor called Remix. Remix is made specifically for creating and testing Solidity contracts. Now, I know that I said in the last video that we can use any type of code editor we want to work with Solidity, but in general, I personally like to use Remix a lot because it's got a lot of built-in tools for both auditing and analyzing your code, and in general, it just kind of works nicely. Now, later on in the course, after we work with Remix for a little bit, we'll eventually end up writing contracts inside of our code editor, but for right now, you'll get a really good idea of exactly how Solidity works by using Remix for a little bit. So it's a great place to get started. We can access Remix by navigating to remix.ethereum.org inside of your browser. And I really encourage you to walk through these steps with me. So inside of my browser, I'm going to navigate to remix.ethereum.org. On the page that pops up, you're going to immediately see a bunch of code inside of a code editor. And we'll do a full walkthrough on this tool in just a little bit, but for right now, we're going to focus on writing our first piece of code. So I don't want to use any of the code that's already in here. Yeah, there's a lot of code here, and we don't really understand any of it just yet. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to select the code inside of here. I'm going to select all of it with Command or Control A, and I'm just going to delete all of it. And we're going to start from scratch. So we're going to write a contract without any previous knowledge here whatsoever. Now for this first contract that we write, obviously we haven't spoken about syntax of Solidity or anything like that at all. So we're just going to write out a very short little contract together. Then we'll take a break and we'll come back and rip this contract apart piece by piece. And I'll make sure that you are 100% clear and aware of every last little bit of syntax in this thing. So again, first part, we're going to just write some code out blind, and then we'll talk about it in great detail. Okay, so let's get started. I'm up here at line 1. We're going to start off by writing pragma solidity. I'm going to do a little caret like so. We'll say 0.4.17 like so. This specifies the version of Solidity that we are starting to write inside this file. Next, we're going to define our first contract. I'm going to say contract inbox, and then I'll place a set of curly braces like so. Immediately underneath that, I'm going to declare an instance variable. So I'll say string public message. This defines a new variable called message that is going to exist inside my contract. It will be of type string, and it's public because it's going to be accessible to anyone in the world. Next, we're going to write a couple of different functions that are associated with this contract. Some of these functions are going to be a little bit complex, but remember, we'll talk about all of them in great detail in just a moment. So the first function, we're going to say function inbox. We're going to receive one argument that's going to be a string, and we'll give it the name initial message. I'm then going to close off this parenthesis. I'll write the word public, and then I'll do a set of curly braces. Now, if you're familiar with JavaScript at all, chances are some of the syntax is in fact feeling a little bit familiar at this point in time, which is good. Inside this function, I'm going to say message equals initial message. Notice how when we started writing out initial message right there, we got a little bit of autocomplete, which is a nice feature of the Remix editor. All right, 2 more quick functions, and we'll go over all this code together. So I'm going to say function set message. We're going to have another set of arguments here, which is going to be a string with an argument called new message. We're going to put the word public here again, and then put another set of curly braces. Inside this function body, we'll say message equals new message. All right, just one more function. We're going to write out a function called get message. We'll write out public, view, returns, and then string, like so. Make sure string is placed inside of a set of parens. We'll then place our curly braces and then say return message. All right, now at this point in the time, you should see a green little box over here. You should not see anything red. If you see anything red or any little icons along the line numbers here, that means you probably have a typo somewhere. So check out that line and compare your code with mine. One thing I want to point out is that every line that has a variable declaration or any actual line of code should have a semicolon at the end. The exception are these functions that you see. So no semicolons are required for these functions. All right, so that's our first little contract, but of course we just wrote a lot of code without having any idea of what's going on. So we're going to pause right now. We're going to come back in the next video and we're going to tear this contract apart and get a really good idea of exactly how it works. So I'll see you in just a minute.